All right, I'm going to read for 20 minutes. This is a poem called Uneasy About the Sounds of Some Night Wandering Animal. On the way to work this morning, the newsman on the radio said, "A big part of reality has been removed," it has been reported. Details are not available at this time. It's just that I am told you will find things different on your drive to work this morning. Some roads will be missing. Whole areas of the city may be gone. However, the good news is no signs of violence have been detected. I turned off the radio. There wasn't the usual rush of traffic, for which I was grateful. I wasn't even sure I was on the right road. There were empty fields where I had remembered rows and rows of apartment buildings. Then I went into a long tunnel, and I had no memory of there being a tunnel. When I came out of it, there was nothing, or rather, I guess I was in a desert, as I had never been in a desert before. I looked around for signs of the city. A jackrabbit scurried across the road, and up ahead a policeman was leaning against his motorcycle. I slowed down instinctively and then pulled over to a stop. "Good morning, officer," I said. "I seem to have taken a wrong road. Could you tell me where I am?" "Not exactly," he said. "This seems to be a new area. It wasn't here before. We're still trying to identify it. I suggest you drive with caution because, well, we have no information on it as of yet." I noticed that he was about to cry. "Well, thanks," I said. My stomach was sinking. I was certain to be late for work. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to drive on to see what was out there, and part of me wanted to turn back, though I wasn't certain of what I would find there. So I drove on for miles and miles, the sand dunes shifting and stirring, and the occasional hawk or buzzard circling overhead. Then the road disappeared, and I was forced to stop. I looked behind me, and that road too was gone, blown over by sand in a few seconds. I got out of the car, glad that I had some water with me. I looked around, and it was all the same. Nothing made any sense. I tried to call Harvey at the office on my cell phone. I couldn't believe it when he answered. "Harvey, it's Carl. I'm out here in this new place. It's all sand and there are no roads," I said. "We'll come and get you," he said. "But I don't know where I am. I mean, I don't even know if it exists," I said. "Don't be ridiculous, Carl. Of course it exists. Just look around and give me something to go by," he said. "There's nothing here." "Oh, there was a tunnel some miles back and a policeman leaning up against his motorcycle. That's the last thing I saw," I said. Was it the old Larchmont tunnel?" he said. "I don't know. It could have been. I was lost already." I said, "Okay, I'm going to come and get you. Just stay put," he said. I waited and waited, and then I just started walking. I know I wasn't supposed to, but I was restless and hoped I might find a way out. I had lost sight of my car and had no idea where I was. The sun was blinding me, and I couldn't think straight. I barely knew who I was. And then, as if by miracle, I heard Harvey's voice call my name. I looked around and couldn't see him. Carl, I'm here, he said. And I still couldn't see him. We've fallen off. We're in the fallen off zone, he said. What? What does that mean? I said. We've separated. It may be temporary. It's too soon to tell, he said. But where are we? We must be in some relation to something, I said. I think we're parallel, he said. Parallel to what? I said. Parallel to everything that matters, he said. Then that's good, I said. I still couldn't see him, and night was coming on. It was a parallel night, much like the other, and that was some comfort, cold comfort, as they like to say. This is called The Ice Cream Man. I answered the ad in the paper. I had been unemployed for 9 months and was desperate. At the interview, the man said, "Do you have much experience climbing tall mountains?" Absolutely, I climb them all the time. If I see a tall mountain, I climb it immediately, I said. What about swimming long distances in rough ocean water, perhaps in a storm, he said. I'm like a fish. You can't stop me. I just keep going in all kinds of weather. Could you fly a glider at night and land in a wheat field, possibly under enemy fire, he said. Nothing could come more naturally to me, I said. How are you with explosives? Would a large building, say 20 stories high, present you with much difficulty, he said. Certainly not. I pride myself on a certain expertise. And I take it you are fully acquainted with the latest in rocket launchers and landmines, he said. I even own a few of them for personal use. They're definitely no problem for me, I said. Now, Mr. Strafford, or may I call you Stephen, what you'll be doing is driving one of our ice cream trucks, selling ice cream to all the little kids in the neighborhoods. But sometimes things get tricky, and we like all of our drivers to be well-trained and well-equipped to face any eventuality. You know, some fathers can get quite irate if you are out of one of their kids' favorite flavors, or if a kid drops the cone, he said. I understand. I won't hesitate to take appropriate actions, he said. And there are certain neighborhoods where you're under advisement to expect the worst. Sneak attacks, gang tactics, bodies dropping from trees or rising out of manholes, blockades, machine gun fire, launched explosives, flamethrowers, and that kind of thing. You can still do a little business there if you are on your toes. Do you see what I'm saying, he said. No problem. I know those kinds of neighborhoods, but as you say, kids still want their ice cream. and I wouldn't let them down. Good, Stephen. I think you're going to like this job. It's exciting and challenging. We've, of course, lost a few of the drivers over the years, but mostly it was because they weren't paying attention. It's what I call the Santa Claus effect. They thought they were just out there to make the kids happy, but there's a lot more to it than that. One of our best drivers had to level half the city once. Of course, that was an extreme case, but he did what needed to be done. We'll count on you to be able to make that kind of decision. You'll have to have all your weapons loaded and ready to go at a moment's notice. You'll have your escape plans with you at all times. Yes, sir, I'll be ready at all times, I said. And as you know, some of the ice cream is lethal. So that will require a quick judgment call on your part as well. Mistakes will inevitably be made, but try to keep them to a minimum. Otherwise, the front office becomes flooded with paperwork, he said. I can assure you I will use it only when it is absolutely necessary, I said. Well, Stephen, I look forward to your joining our team. They're mostly crack professionals, ex-Green Berets, Navy SEALs, and that kind of thing. At the end of the day, you've made all those kids happy, but you've also thinned out the bad seeds and made our city a safer place to be in, he said. He sat there smiling with immense pride. How will I know what flavor is lethal, I said. Experiment, he said. I looked stunned, and then we both started laughing. This is called the land of the vapors. A rocket landed in a farmer's field just outside of town. It didn't explode or anything, just stuck straight down in a cow pasture. Word got out right away and the crowd started to gather. Shortly after that, the state police arrived and forced everyone back to a safe distance. The farmer made sure all his cows were in the barn. Then several army trucks arrived and sent in several experts to look at the rocket. They were covered in all manner of protective gear. The rest of the soldiers assisted in keeping the crowd at a safe distance. I spotted Kim and walked up to her. "This is quite embarrassing, isn't it?" I said. "I'm not sure I want these people protecting us," she said. "This isn't the first time this has happened around here," I said. "I know. There was that schoolhouse a couple of years ago," she said. One of the soldiers turned around. "I wish you wouldn't be so hard on us. We're still trying to get used to the new system," he said. He looked so sad I almost forgave him. "Well, couldn't you experiment with it out in the desert or something?" I said. "They did. They said everything was working fine." "Well, one of these days you're going to blow up our whole little town and everybody in it. Do you really think that's okay?" I said. "No, sir, I don't. It's not his fault," Kim said to me. I know, I said. Just then there was this tremendous explosion. Most of the crowd, including the soldiers and policemen, had been knocked to the ground, some of them bleeding, some injured quite badly. The two soldiers who had been working on the rocket had vaporized, not a trace of them, and the barn had been flattened. A few of the cows were still standing. The farmer ran to the barn and started caressing his decimated herd. I helped Kim to her feet. She had a cut above her left eye. The soldier who we'd been talking to was unconscious or possibly dead. I felt his pulse. He was still alive. He'll be all right soon, I think, I said to Kim. I gave her my handkerchief. Hold this over your eye. We started to walk among the others. The ambulances will be here soon, I kept saying over and over to those who needed help. I knelt down to one old lady and helped her to find her rosary. She thanked me and smiled. I gave sips of water to a young boy with parched lips. Finally, the ambulances did arrive and started carting away the wounded. One police officer said to me, "They train us for this kind of thing, but it never does any good. A goddamn field of cows. Who could have expected that?" Yeah, that farmer lost half his herd and his barn, and nobody's going to care about that, I said. I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about the waste of a good missile, he said. Kim and I drove back to town. Do you want me to take you to the hospital to get that eye stitched up? I said. No, I'll be all right, she said. I'm not going to go chasing missiles again. That was a mistake, I said. Oh, don't say that, Brad. You know it's the most exciting thing that ever happens around here. If it weren't for the Army, this would be a very dull little town. As it is, it's almost as if we were at war, but with ourselves, which puts a whole other spin on things. You don't really have to hate anybody, which is a big relief, she said. What about those two men who were vaporized? I said. That was their calling. They went happily to the land of the vapors, she said. This is called the cowboy. Someone has spread an elaborate rumor about me that I was in possession of an extraterrestrial being, and I thought I knew who it was. It was Roger Lawson. Roger was a practical joker of the worst sort, and up until now I had not been one of his victims, so I kind of knew my time had come. People parked in front of my house for hours and took pictures. I had to draw all my blinds and only went out when I had to. Then there was a barrage of questions. What does he look like? What do you feed him? How did you capture him? And I simply denied the presence of an extraterrestrial in my house. And of course, this excited them all the more. The press showed up and started creeping around my yard. It got to be very irritating. More and more came and parked up and down the street. Roger was really working overtime this time. I had to do something. Finally, I made an announcement. I said, "The little fellow died peacefully." Peacefully in his sleep at 11:02 last night. Let us see the body, they clamored. He went up in smoke instantly, I said. I don't believe you, one of them said. There is no body in the house, or I would have buried it myself, I said. About half of them got in their cars and drove off. The rest of them kept their vigil. but more solemnly now. I went out and bought some groceries. When I came back about a half an hour later, half of them had gone. When I went to the kitchen, I nearly dropped the groceries. There was a nearly transparent fellow with large pink eyes standing about 3 feet tall. "Why did you tell them I was dead? That was a lie," he said. "You speak English," I said. "I listened to the radio. It wasn't very hard to learn. Also, we have television. We get all your channels. I like cowboys, especially John Ford movies. They're the best," he said. "What am I going to do with you?" I said. "Take me to meet a real cowboy. That would make me happy," he said. "I don't know any cowboys, but maybe we could find one. People would go crazy if they see you. We'd have press following us everywhere. It would be the story of the century," I said. "I can be invisible. It's not hard for me to do," he said. "I'll think about it. Wyoming or Montana would be our best bet. But they're a long way from here," I said. "Please, I won't cause you any trouble." "It would take some planning," I said. I put the groceries down and started putting them away. I tried not to think of the cosmic meaning of all this. Instead, I treated him like a smart little kid. "Do you have any sarsaparilla?" he said. "No, but I have some orange juice. It's good for you," I said. He drank it and made a face. "I'm going to get the maps out," I said. "We'll see how we could get there." When I came back, he was dancing on the kitchen table, a sort of ballet, but very sad. "I have the maps," I said. "We won't need them. I just received word. I'm going to die tonight. It's really a joyous occasion, and I hope you'll help me celebrate by watching The Magnificent Seven," he said. I stood there with the maps in my hand. I felt an unbearable sadness come over me. "Why must you die?" I said. "Father decides these things. It is probably my reward for coming here safely and meeting you," he said. "But I was going to take you to meet a real cowboy," I said. "Let's pretend you are my cowboy," he said. Thank you.